Welcome to Moving Forward with my co-host,
Karen Casino.
And myself, Ryan White. Today we're going to talk about the collaborative practice, and more specifically how it pertains to family law. With us today, we have Liz Brown. She is a family law attorney with Cage & Miles, as well as Rebecca Medina, also a family law attorney with the law offices of Rebecca Medina. Liz, let's get started. Tell us how the collaborative family law is different than mediation and the other forms of resolving a case.
Great. So really the collaborative process changes the dynamics of how the couple is going to proceed through a dissolution. They specifically are going to sign a contract with a team of professionals wherein they're attesting that they aren't going to take this case to trial. They're not going to be using the court systems. Instead, they're going to complete a contract within themselves saying that if they cannot resolve this case here in this collaborative process, that they'll actually have to disengage all those professionals that they've hired to use and go out and hire new counsel and new professionals and new experts to then proceed by court. So the concept is that you're creating this confidential process that keeps everybody engaged and committed to an out-of-court resolution. Whereas mediation doesn't have that same kind of restrictions. It doesn't create this requirement that you not use your mediator or that you absolutely have to disengage professionals. So both processes are obviously confidential and leave problem solving to the family or the couple. But in the collaborative case, really you're taking it a step further by entering into this contract that says this is the process we're choosing, we understand it, and we're committed to it. We don't want to go to court. We don't want the judge to decide.
Do you find that by having people sign that and go to that process that it becomes less adversarial?
Right. So that is definitely part of it. Another important part, as you're bringing up, is this team of professionals that are going to be supporting the couple and the family through the process. And that whole team is committed to a non-adversary process, right? They're there to listen and guide and educate and give the direction. Another big difference is cost. So if you're on the average thinking, gosh, okay, I'm making this commitment, I'm hiring all of these professionals, which Rebecca's going to give us some further detail on who that team is, you're thinking, wow, that's expensive. But when you compare a collaborative case to a litigated case, or even a partially litigated case, where maybe you're doing some things in court and some things through settlement conferences and other work, the collaborative case is going to be less costly. And the key there is that you have a specific professional that's addressing the specific need. As an attorney, I'm not a therapist, right? And I don't have that certification and that expert knowledge. So oftentimes in a litigated case, I'm wearing many hats, but that's really not the best use of my resource. So in a collaborative case with the team, less costly professionals are handling things and offsetting costs that litigation only drives up.
Rebecca, why don't you tell us about the team of professionals that there are in the collaborative cases?
The team consists of 2 lawyers that are trained in the collaborative process, experienced in family law, and have the conflict resolution training. A financial neutral who is either a certified financial planner or an accountant. And Karen, you're a financial neutral, so can you talk a little bit about that and what your role would be? Yeah.
So I'm a CPA and I am trained in collaborative family law. As the financial, we're the only neutral that there is. So we will help the parties complete their financial disclosures, work with them to understand their assets and to work towards solutions for their financial assets and liabilities. So we work on the finances with them. And again, we're the only neutral. Each side has their own professionals except the financial professionals. So in a lot of collaborative cases, the financial professional is kind of the point person because they're the only neutral and they're the ones to set up the meetings and figure out how it's going to proceed.
Yeah. So there's the 2 lawyers, the financial neutral, and then 2 divorce coaches. So each spouse has their own divorce coach. Each spouse has their own lawyer. And as Liz mentioned, that they're helping the couple in the area that they're the most knowledgeable in their expertise. So it's efficient task allocation. So it ends up providing the couple with the resources that they need. And it's just a very helpful, structured process.
Sounds like a better way to go.
Definitely.
All right, Liz, 3 advantages to going collaborative, and 2 of them I think you've mentioned already, right? The financial impact as compared to litigation, right? Perhaps less adversarial,
Right.
Better chance you'll be able to dance at your child's wedding, right?
Right.
And maybe those are 2 of the 3, but I don't know, you tell me, what are the 3 advantages?
Perfect. So definitely, I think cost is correct, like as we've already discussed. I think the other point is that, to me, the skill set that these mental health professionals bring are coaches that come and support the team through process of helping everybody to communicate. And that includes listening to one another, right? And usually this is what's broken down for most couples at this point. This is why they are now facing a divorce. And so to me, from my professional stance, when I'm part of this team, the collaborative sources and resources that we're using and these mental health coaches that really get to the crux of what's going on and communicate and help them communicate to one another, that's really where the roadblocks happen. And that's where, people walk away from negotiation tables because they're just not being heard or they can't hear the other person. And the other thing that ties into that is a mission statement. So in collaborative practice, each family creates their own mission statement. And this is kind of the building blocks for the team for the whole process. When you've spun out and nobody's working collaboratively anymore, you go back to that mission statement, you restate it, you remind the parties that they created this mission statement. It's a combination of what they both want, right? And so it's so easy to get bogged down in a legal concept or a financial issue that might be pending, but to really bring them back to why they're here, why they chose this process, to me, that's another huge asset, and the others you've already mentioned.
And there are some disadvantages, right, Rebecca? And maybe there are reasons why it doesn't work for some people. What are some of those disadvantages and maybe people that shouldn't enter into that process?
Well, one, it could be perceived as a disadvantage is that because it's a team-supported environment, you're having to coordinate, different schedules. There's going to be multiple appointments. So that might be perceived as a disadvantage depending on, the timelines of the couple or what they have going on. Initial cost could be greater than other alternatives like mediation. And because it's a team-structured environment, they may not need all of the team. So if the estate, for example, is more straightforward, maybe there's no children, maybe they have, one house, a couple of retirement accounts, it's more straightforward. Mediation might be a more streamlined option. And also sometimes it may be, there may be circumstances where it's not suitable. For instance, maybe there's substance abuse or active domestic violence or something like that. But for the most part, like Liz mentioned, it's a really, really a very powerful resource for a couple, especially when they, can craft their mission statement as a family and really go through a process with their highest values and intentions. And they each have the support that they need. The children would have the support that they need as well through the professionals involved.
Interesting. But Liz, now I've never been through this process, hope to never go through this process, but I've been told that when you stand and you have your day in court and a judge is to rule, they tend to not be as creative as someone could be when you're all working together to come up with a more, I guess, creative solution. I think it's important to kind of point out what creativity can be involved in the dissolution when everybody's working together in the collaborative process.
Sure. So you're right. Our judges at the courthouse, they follow the laws and the rules, and they equitably divide, a community estate. That's where we are. And you're correct. In a collaborative case, you can still have that equitable division, but you can deviate from what the law requires, right? So in my experience, where this has come into play the most is on the financial side of things, because generally speaking, we say, we split a retirement equally, or we, sell a house and share the proceeds equally. But sometimes, depending upon where life stands for this couple or this family, that doesn't make the most economic sense. So that's where we rely on our financial neutral the most, to say, how can we best serve this family with what's there, right? So I've had cases come into collaborative practice specifically because they have a very unique situation of like an adult dependent child, right? And there's really specific limitations as to what you can do under family code related to that. And then there's super important benefits on a federal and state level for children such as this. And so you don't want to do certain things that are going to lose those kinds of benefits. So seriously, you sit down with this expert. You might have to even bring in another expert, because sometimes we don't even have the answer ourselves just within that team. And you can get as creative as you need, create a special needs trust and look to really, really out of the box solutions, right? Because most estates are going to be more straightforward, but there are certainly plenty of families that have really different assets or children or they're later on in life, and they really want to still see that retirement that they had all worked for and planned for, but they're going to need to do it separately. So this is the process that lets people get creative and lets the financial neutral dig in to figure out, what's the best way to achieve that. I think the other side of where that getting creative and all of that is really in, parents that are struggling with co-parenting. Our courts are really limited on what they can do. They can recommend parenting courses or high conflict, solutions, communicate through apps and all this, that, and the other. But I think that just kind of facilitates and continues the problem that's happened. So here in collaborative, right, any solution is out there as to how to get parents to better communicate, how to help. And sometimes it's just that they needed to hear each other, but we never are all in the same room in a litigated case. Nobody wants to, discuss what's really, happening between these parents. So in the collaborative case you do, and you dig in and you have to address those concerns.
And Rebecca, in your experience, that you've seen how this process can move people forward in a very positive way, especially when there's children. Tell us about that.
Well, as Liz mentioned, there's an emphasis on helping the couple to co-parent by getting to the root of what their communication challenges may be, their fears, and really kind of digging in and discussing that. So that way they can create, the change that they need to peacefully coexist and to help their children to really thrive. So there's a huge emphasis on the family unit and getting them the resources that they need to create a co-parenting plan and a parenting plan for the children that is going to focus on the needs of the children and helping the parents to really communicate on a level where they're not just not just getting by, but really helping the family as a whole to thrive, and the kids especially. Mm-hmm. So it's very powerful. And because the emphasis is on the family, Oftentimes through the collaborative process, relationships with other family members and extended family members are preserved. So, that could be grandparents, a former sister-in-law, friends. So there's that emphasis on, not just the immediate family, but also who the couple identifies as family and friends, and keeping that together, so that way, that unit is intact after the divorce and beyond.
Good. Where would we go to find out more about this process?
Super important question. So there is obviously a local organization to San Diego called Collaborative Practice San Diego. We have a website where resources are available for anybody to come take a look at, all professionals locally trained in this process and with this level of expertise. Also, there is just more information about what some of these things look like, right? We've talked about a collaborative agreement where you're committing yourself to the process, or a mission statement. So there's resources there to learn more about that. There's also, on a state level, Collaborative Practice California, CP-Cal. And again, another very thorough website with lots of information and resources. Most all of us on the local level are also found on that statewide level. The other really great resource that is out there is a monthly webinar that takes place every Saturday, the first Saturday of each month at 9 a.m. And that's available for a small fee of $25. And it's a presentation by 3 collaborative professionals talking all about divorce options. So it's called the Divorce Options Workshop. Again, links are available online to get to any of those. And honestly, I think everybody should just be asking any attorney or professional that they're interviewing or meeting and discussing the possibility of a divorce with, what are my options? What else is out there? If it's not collaborative, maybe there's some other, alternative dispute resolution that practitioner knows about, or that mental health person knows about, that can help educate and direct.
We've heard from Liz Brown. She's a family law attorney with Cajun Miles, as well as Rebecca Medina with the law offices of Rebecca Medina. For more information on collaborative law practice, feel free to take a look it up. And ladies, I want to thank you both for being with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.